How to enter a new patient. Left-click the New Patient button on the main toolbar menu. This opens the New Patient window. On the left-hand side of the window, we have our segment bar menu, which is composed of different views. The general view is the default. This is where we enter the patient demographics. The cursor is blinking in the last name field. Before we start typing the last name, what we can do is make sure that this AutoCase checkbox is checked. AutoCase will capitalize the first letter of each word. Clicking back in the last name field, enter the last name of the patient. Tab to the first names field and enter the first name. Tab to the title field and enter the title for the patient, if appropriate. If I enter Mr., this will automatically enter the gender of the patient in the sex field. However, a title is not required. I can always tab to the sex field and enter the sex and enter M or F as appropriate. Next, tab to the DOB or date of birth field. The date format in profile is the day, the first 3 letters of the month, and then the year. Next, tab to the street address panel, street field, and enter the address for the patient. For the postal code, you don't need to worry about capitalizing or spacing. Profile will do that for you. You can enter the name of the building if the patient lives in a home or care center. If the postal address is the same as the street address, there's no need to retype everything. You can just left-click in the Use Street checkbox. This will populate the postal address fields with the street address. Next, click into the Home Phone field and enter the patient's phone number, including area code. You do not need to worry about parentheses or dashes. Profile will space the phone number accordingly. At the top right, the type is set to patient by default and the status is set to active by default. In the label field, you can select a label to give you more information about a patient. Left-click on the drop-down arrow and you can see that we have labels for paper chart, transition, e-chart, and incomplete. These labels are customizable. In this case, I will select the incomplete label. You can see the incomplete label is linked to the color purple. Whenever you search for the patient or view the patient's name will be colored purple. This will be a visual cue. In this case, we are labeling this patient as incomplete because we can't put a fake PHN into profile. To enter a PHN, left-click on the drop-down arrow at the end of the first field and select the province or other designation. In the next field, enter the number. If the patient is an infant or dependent, left-click in the I/D checkbox. This will add the 66 suffix at the end of the PHN for billing purposes. Once you save the patient record, Profile will populate a number in the file number field. This is an identification number, which is equivalent to the chart number. Under the file number field is the duplicate check button. This functionality looks to see if the patient is already in your system. The duplicate check functionality will check last name, date of birth, and/or PHN. Underneath the duplicate check button is the usual doctor field. Enter the username of the doctor that the patient usually sees in the clinic. You can see that this information populates blue and underlined, and that the field has a blue box with 3 dots in it at the end of that field. This box is called the ellipsis box. Whenever you see this box at the end of a field in Profile, this means that this field is pulling information from a list of something in the database. In this case, it is pulling information from the list of providers or doctors in the database. Underneath the usual doctor field is the alt provider or alternate provider field. You can enter the alternate provider's username if the patient sees a specific doctor when their usual doctor is unavailable. Otherwise, you can leave this field blank. Once you're done, you have the choice of 3 buttons at the bottom right of the screen. OK, Cancel, and Apply. Apply will save the information and leave this window open. Cancel will cancel this window. And OK will save the information and close the window. The 3 required fields to save a patient record and profile are last name, first name, and date of birth. Once you're done, you can left-click the OK button.